Hello, this is Jared playing Oxygen Not Included, and today I'm experimenting with how you can make farming more efficient. I've got a number of different farms with different things inside it, and when I say that, I really mean quite a few, and I'll take you through each of these in a little bit. But each farm has a number of things that are in common. First of all, I'm timing how long a duplicant is inside the farm. I'm recording that in seconds over here. I'm also recording how many times they go in the farm. So over here I can see how many times the dupe has gone in. Over here I can see how many seconds they've been in that farm. So I'm going to let this run for quite a while, and we'll see how much effort or manual work is needed in that front. Now I do want to make sure that the dupes are only in there for actual work purposes. In this case we've got a load of storage bin. We'll cover the different types of things that are in there later. But to minimize that, we've got this manual generator, which is set at a low priority. It turns off as soon as they stand there, so it just basically keeps them out here. So basically, all that's to say is, if this is counting up a few seconds, is because there's actual work that needs to be done. So there's that I'm measuring. The other thing that I'm going to measure is the actual output. So every single farm has a set of auto sweepers and the conveyor loader. That's basically gonna, in this case, send some pike apple to be dropped off right here. I'm gonna let this run for a while, and I'll see how much each different type of farm produces, how much pike apple each farm produces. So we'll have a perspective how much labor there is involved and how much output I'm able to get. Other than that, everything is self-sufficient in each room. Basically, no one can leave this area that they're stuck in. And their skills, let's look at each individual dupe. They have no real special traits other than the fact that reduced chance of getting sick. I don't want sickness to affect things, or frost. So everyone's frost proof here. Everything's pretty much taken care of. We've got like massive amounts of oxygen, water, and power. So no one has to do anything except for farming or just standing next to the wheel all day long. Food is also taken care of for them. So there's all that. What else to say? Oh yeah, they've got a +2 to farming. I should mention that. If I go down here, oh no, sorry, a +4, that's right. If I go to skills, and the only reason they have that is because everyone has crop tending. I wanted to make sure everyone was the same. In some cases, I've got 3 different types of tests. We've got basic farming without greenhouses. We've got farming in greenhouses, and then we've got a few wild farms. So we'll look at the effectiveness of each of those. I think we are now ready to look at the different type of farming that we're going to do. So starting at the bottom, I'm thinking this is probably going to be the most slow, well, not including the wild, I suppose, but the slowest growth. Though it might actually, right now the dupe has not been in there or done anything. And that is because they are not doing any harvesting. So we have some material that's been loaded. They are going to have to go in, and I put phosphorite, which is the input for that, over there. So at some point, we are definitely going to see Abe go in here, and that'll be picked up over there. But basically, I've got a farm. This dupe needs to supply some input, but they're not going to harvest. They're just going to let that land and then have the auto sweeper pick it up. Up one level here is pretty much the exact same thing, except for we are going to harvest. So we're going to see this dupe go in to load in some material. They're then going to harvest when it needs to be taken out. Up here, it's the exact same thing, except for we've got a storage bin right in the middle for phosphorite with auto sweepers. So what that means is initially we'll probably see a build-up of dupes spending a little bit of time in here for loading material. But once that's loaded up, we're probably going to save some time overall. We'll see if that is actually true when we compare this to this number over here over time. But that also should mean there's less interruption, because it may be the case this dupe has to walk and go back and forth to load in material. So there should be a reduction of time. So it should be a little bit more output, and we'll maybe see if that's actually true. Up here is the exact same thing except for those lights. So that's the only real difference. This dupe can actually see what they're doing, and we're going to see what that has an effect of both the amount of time that they're in this room plus the amount of output. Alright, so that's just the regular farming. Now let's go up to the greenhouses. So each of these is a greenhouse and it has a farming station, so we'll have a dupe attend to that here. So that means a little bit more labor, at least initially anyways, because a dupe has to go in here to use the farming station, and we can see the farmer's touch being added. But because this is giving us a farmer's touch, 100% growth, then I would expect a little bit more output over here. But just as in the last case, this farm is not harvesting, whereas the farm above it is. So I would expect there'd be a little bit more output from that. We'll see if that's the case when this is all done. Up here, it's the exact same thing, except for I have a storage bin. You can see not a lot of material has been put in. That's because this dupe has been more focusing on applying the farmer's touch. But once they're done that, they'll start to load in some more, and that's going to reduce the amount of time they have to go back later to get some pike apple. We'll see what effect this has on the amount of time that they have to go in here, plus the output. Up here, exact same thing, but there's lights. So what is the effect of light in the amount of time the dupe has to do work and the output? And I've always been wondering, I generally put the farming station at the beginning of the room, but I was just curious if I were to simply, and that's the only real difference here, is the farming station is at the end. Will that have an impact on either the output or time? I actually don't know, but you know what? I was curious, so I thought I'd build that in there. Alright, almost done, but we do want to test some of the wild plants. So, same idea. So I've got, and by the way, I didn't mention this, but there are 10 tiles of farming. And so what I did for the wild version of I also have 10. And I'm going to see how much output there is. Actually, in this one, there's... Harold has it easy here. I would expect that this is going to remain 0. If I had thought about this, probably wouldn't bother putting in a dupe. But you know what? There it is. They are... Oh, you know what? I think... I can't remember if I told them not to eat... Just in case there's a small... Yeah, let's turn that off. Okay, I'm glad I thought of that, actually. But yeah, I don't want them to eat that, or there's nowhere to store it, so the only thing that should happen is it should go into conveyor load. Anyway, back to the wild tests. What are the differences between these wild tests? Well, the bottom one is not being harvested. The one up here actually does require a dupe, probably not a lot of work, but they're going to be doing a little bit of harvesting. And then we've got farming with harvesting, and then farming with harvesting, but with light. So that's the whole set of tests. I can see everyone is on break. I'm going to go away for a bit and leave these guys alone for the longest time. And we will see what happens in terms of both the amount of time that they have to work, how much output we get, and I will report back as we go. I just want to mention I am keeping track of the number of cycles down here. So the other thing I should be able to show you is how many cycles they've been working for as I stop and look at some of the numbers along the way. We have come up to the end of cycle 8. Let me just give you a view of where we are. This bottom one here, we've got pike apple growing at 60%. We only have 8,000 calories. Versus 16, 16, 16, and I'm going to say that's probably, oh no, sorry, 34,000 over here. I mean, it makes sense, where farming is going at twice the speed rate. And then wild, wild with no farming so far hasn't done anything yet. But we've got 8,000 and 8,000 when it's wild in a greenhouse. We are going to have to go much further. Oh, we can see some plants here that are currently ready to be harvested, but we're not going to harvest them. We'll let them turn to food naturally. I need to let this run far more than just 8 cycles. I'll be back much later on. It has been 54 cycles of this running. I'm going to keep going till we get to 100, but I just want to give you a sneak peek about halfway-ish through this process. Just look at a few of the numbers. First of all, let's look at food down here, 56,000. Up here, we've got 136,000. What if we did a fully implemented, almost a 250,000 pike apple, if we did full automation with lights? And if we were relying on wild, but doing farming, 64,000. Let's have a quick look. What is costing the most labor? Obviously, if we don't harvest, that is saving a significant amount. Putting the loading material, I mean, it saves... actually, this is kind of a surprise. I see what... Okay, this is interesting. I'm just noticing now. This mechanism, not probably the best representation, because this duplicate has nothing to do but load stuff, so he's actually going in there far more times than you would probably do in a normal play. Alright, well, we'll keep that in mind in the results. What about this setup over here? I guess that only technically applies during the actual load, like when these things start running out. Anyways, it probably... Well, actually, let's have a quick look of it now. I'm assuming this probably improves the output because these guys don't delay, though I don't think it's going to be the biggest amount. You know what? Let's check. 136. 136. Yeah, very minimal. In reality, what I probably should have done is I should have built this out here and just brought in, like, let's say a conveyor loader with a receptacle. Anyway, that aside, we'll go and run the rest of the numbers a little bit further down. But yeah, let's go look at the moment you involve the farm station. Definitely more labor, and that's expected. But I think we've got to take this and divide it by the amount of calories. I'm going to do that towards the end once we get to cycle 100 or so. All right, well, that is about the halfway-ish point. I'll be back at cycle 100. Okay, it has been 100 cycles of this crazy experiment of growing pike apple with different arrangements of farms. Let me take you through some of the results. We've got, just as a reminder, the amount of calories that I've collected for the setup. This is the setup where I'm doing farming, but I don't have any harvesting going on. And as expected, that has a reduction compared to the other methods in the number of work that has to be done, because the dupe has to go in and supply material, but they don't have to do the harvest. So that saves there. Obviously, probably going to get less calories, 112,000. Versus the same setup, exact same thing, exact same type of dupe or skills, and they're able to increase that. So that is something, though they did have to work a little bit longer to do that. Up here, I don't think this test worked out so well. Calorie-wise, actually it still is, in this case, there's no difference. It might be more interesting, the greenhouse version, but the amount of work was actually more for a bin. In reality, that's probably not going to be the case. In reality, you're probably not going to have a dupe that's just waiting for something to do. In the moment there's a little bit of material that needs to be added, phosphorate in this case, they're going to run in, and I think part of the time might just be work to... It takes more effort to load into a bin than it is the farm tile, I'm not sure. But in reality, you're probably going to have a dupe who's bored, who's going to take a big amount in a few trips rather than this guy going back and forth. Anyway, just saying that's probably not the most useful test. Up here, it is the exact same thing. So we still have a bin, but we have light access. And the question is, does that give us any more calories? In this case, no. But it does have a reduction in the amount of time the dupe spends in there. So if you're worried about your labor, putting on some lights if you can be a useful thing. I'm going to go back and talk about, at the end, how many calories we get per cycle. Well, let's just divide by 1,000. But how many calories we get per second of work. We'll look at that after. But let's go back or let's go up rather into the greenhouse. This is a greenhouse, and you can see without harvesting clearly, this dupe is just letting the pike apple, they're being lazy, let that fall to the floor and have the auto sweeper pick that up. Let's compare this to the other types of the greenhouse. It is definitely the cheap. No, actually it's not, is it? Yeah, it is less work to do this. We've got 136, 1,000 calories, so it's actually not as effective as not having a greenhouse. No surprise. It's probably what you would not. It's probably not what you would normally do. This is more just your regular greenhouse where the dupe goes in, puts in material, and does harvesting. In this case, we get 447,000. So that's a jump. That's a big jump there. But a little bit more calorie, or a little time, much more time spent if you've got a greenhouse. Then what do we got here? This is the bins. I won't concentrate on this one too much. I think you get the similar type of thing. You've got a little bit of a jump, but in reality, that probably isn't what you would get in practice. Let's go up here. This is basically the greenhouse. It's got a bin, but it has lights. Does that save a bit of time? You could see the jump up there. Actually, maybe this is nice to see the version of a bin and lights. Let's see, yes, lights does give an improvement in the amount of seconds. Does it give an improvement in this case in the amount of calories though? 456, 470. Okay. So yeah, not only does light save a bit of labor, but because we're able to load things, well, more about harvesting, I guess, a little bit quicker due to having light, it actually results in a little bit more calories being generated. Okay, and then this was interesting. This is a different type of test. I never know whether to put the farm station to the entrance or to the exit. And I thought, you know what? Why don't I just do both and let this thing run? Calorie-wise, is there any difference between having the two that way? We've got 470 versus 464. Not a big difference, but yeah, slightly more calories. Though it's interesting that the amount of work is significantly lower. Even though we get, and that's why I'm going to do at the end calories per second worked at the end. But yeah, that was a bit of a surprise. So yeah, it's a big labor savings. But hold on, storing disabled by Okay, that may not be fully accurate. I didn't realize that I had that going through there. Let's just fix that up actually, because maybe it is the same amount of calories, or maybe it's more. Hold on. New results coming in. Okay. We've got 465 and 4. Okay, so still not the biggest difference there. Which makes sense. That would just been held up until the dupe step in the room for a second. All right, now we've got our wild plants. So this is wild no harvest, and as expected, this is actually kind of good. This confirms that my system of keeping the dupes over here and not falsely counting time where they're just wandering doesn't happen. So yeah, no labor to this. They don't harvest. It's just wild plants picked up by these auto sweepers. What does that generate? 48,000 calories. So big reduction when you're in wild move. Same number of tiles, 9, or same number of plants, 10. This is with harvesting. So obviously the dupe does have to go in. What happened here? Okay, that I'm assuming that's a 1. That's 105. Yeah, that's almost certainly. Oh goodness, I don't know. No, maybe that is literally 56 seconds. Anyways, looks like we had a fault over there. Anyway, let's keep going on. 64,000, and we've got 0 here. Wait, what? Let's see, we've got some problems, don't we? This is connected. Where did... Okay, I'm coming back to that. I'm sure I had... I might need to just go back to a save to patch up some of these numbers. And then finally, we've got farming here in a greenhouse, but with lights. So I would like to, I can see lights actually did, even though they're wild, we are farming, it reduced the number of trips into this room. And it slightly reduced the number of total seconds that dupe has to go in here. All right, let me go patch up or go to a load that has this this fixed, and we'll look at that, and then we'll look at the calories per second. I just roll back to cycle 99, and it looks like I still don't have this number, but I do have the calories over here. So this is wild farming in a greenhouse without lights. It gives you 116, and if you turn on the lights, you get 120. So a little bit more yield, just because you can harvest a little bit quicker. All right, let's look at calories per second of each of these. So for the farming, we've got in this room, it is 46. Then we've got 40, 37, and then 45. So in this case, it would be 45 calories per second worked. And then up here, let me give you the numbers. We've got 5, 16, 15, and 16. And then this arrangement here was 30. So there is a big increase. We're getting 30 calories per second worked. So every second this dupe is in here, even though they have to go further back to get the farming station, they have access to the tiles, farming tiles. So that gives a little bit more calories per second. And then in the farm, I'm going to actually paste all this in the description if you want to see the numbers. But we've got, well, this one's non-applicable, I suppose. Then we have, oh yeah, I guess we can't get this number, can we? Then we've got 78.0 and 78.9. So slight difference due to the light. All right, well, I hope this maybe give you a few ideas of implementing your own farm. Like I said, I'll put those numbers up in the description. If you like some of my random experiments and oxygen not included, like, subscribe. I'll make some more. I'm sure there's lots more I can experiment with what we can get from various different aspects of this great game. Talk to you later.